The scream came first, then the blood. A child had wandered too far from the fire. The grass was tall, the dusk was thick, and the wind carried no warning. One moment she was chasing fireflies. The next, she was gone. The tiger serpent struck without sound. Its body moved like smoke, its tail coiled like rope, and its jaws snapped like thunder. The scream tore through the valley, followed by silence, then panic. 3 men and 3 women sprinted toward the sound, spears raised, hearts pounding. They didn't know each other's names. They didn't care. The fire had made them one. And now, the fire had been challenged. They reached the clearing and froze. The creature stood over the child's body, blood dripping from its fangs. Its eyes glowed green. Its tail twitched with hunger. Behind it, a second shadow moved, wings wide, serpent-like, hovering above the trees. Darrow didn't wait. He roared and charged, spear aimed at the creature's chest. The tiger serpent twisted, dodged, and countered with a swipe that tore bark from a nearby tree. Nari lit her torch and hurled it, flames catching the creature's tail. It screamed, a sound like bone cracking underwater, and vanished into the grass. The fireborn didn't chase. They knew this was only the beginning. They didn't know what it was, but they knew it wasn't natural. The wind carried no warning. It was dry, cracked, and silent. The kind of silence that made the elders uneasy. The kind that made the children stop playing and the hunters grip their spears tighter. In the valley where fire had only recently become a friend, something else had arrived. Something older than fear. Something that didn't belong. 6 of them stood at the edge of the tall grass. 3 men, 3 women. Their bodies bore the marks of survival, scarred shoulders, sunburnt skin, eyes that had seen too much. They were not a tribe. Not yet. They were fragments of broken clans, scattered by drought, by hunger, by the slow death of the old ways. But tonight, they stood together. Not because they trusted each other, but because something was watching them. The first sound was not a roar. It was a hiss, low, wet, and wrong, like something dragging across bone. Then came the growl, deep, layered, like 2 beasts speaking at once. The grass parted, and the world changed. It wasn't a tiger, not fully. Its body was feline, yes, muscular, striped, powerful. But its eyes were wrong, slitted like a serpent, glowing faintly green. Its tail was not a tail, but a coil, scaled, thick, and twitching. And its mouth held too many teeth. Some curved like fangs, others jagged like broken stone. It stepped forward, dragging something behind it. A carcass, a boar, half-eaten, still twitching. The youngest woman, Nari, stepped back. Her breath caught. She had seen predators before. She had seen lions take children, snakes swallow birds. But this was a mistake. A creature that should not exist. A creature born from fear itself. Beside her, Darrow raised his spear. He was the oldest of the group, his hair gray with ash, his arms thick from years of carving stone. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The others followed his lead, forming a loose circle, backs to each other, eyes scanning the grass. But the hybrid didn't attack. It watched. It tilted its head as if curious. Then it turned, slowly, and vanished into the grass. That night, they didn't sleep. They built the fire higher than usual. Not for warmth, for light, for proof that they were still here. They sat in silence, listening. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of a leaf felt like a warning. The stars above blinked slowly, as if unsure whether to witness what was coming. In the morning, they found the tracks. Not one set. 3. One was the tiger serpent. The second was something else, clawed, bird-like, but heavy. The third was human, barefoot, but too large, too deep, and it walked beside the others. They followed the tracks, not because they were brave, but because they needed to know. If they were going to die, they wanted to understand what was killing them. The trail led to the river, or what used to be the river. Now it was a cracked bed of stone and dust, with only a thin stream trickling through. And there in the mud, they saw it. A nest, bones, feathers, scales, skulls, all arranged in a spiral. At the center, a single stone, black smooth and warm to the touch. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Nari reached for it. Darrow stopped her. "No," he said. His voice was gravel. "It's not ours." They left the nest untouched, but the stone stayed in their minds. That night, the fire didn't help. The hybrid returned, not alone. From the trees came a second creature, part eagle, part serpent. Its wings were wide but torn. Its eyes glowed red. It didn't fly. It hovered, and it screamed. The scream was not sound. It was memory. It made them remember every loss, every hunger, every death. It made them feel small. It made them feel prey. They ran, not away, together. Through the grass, through the trees, through the dark. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their feet moved in rhythm. Their breath synced. Their fear became unity. They reached the cave by dawn. It was old, forgotten, marked with handprints from a time before memory. Inside, they collapsed, not from exhaustion, from realization. The world had changed. Outside, the hybrids roamed. Not many, but enough. Enough to make fire feel weak. Enough to make spears feel silly. Enough to make silence feel sacred. Darrow stood. He looked at the others. His eyes were tired, but burning. "We don't run again," he said. Nari nodded. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. "We fight," she said. And so, the fire was reborn. Not as warmth, as weapon. They gathered wood, stone, bone. They carved, they shaped. They remembered the old ways and invented new ones. They painted the cave walls, not with stories, but with warnings. They trained, they watched, they waited. The hybrids didn't attack that night. They watched, from the trees, from the grass, from the sky. They watched the humans become something else. Not prey, not tribe, not clan. Something new, something dangerous, something ready. They didn't speak the same language, but the fire made them one. The cave was silent, but the walls were alive. Flickering shadows danced across ancient handprints, as if the ancestors were watching. 6 survivors sat around the fire. 3 men, 3 women, faces lit by flame, eyes dark with memory. Outside, the hybrids waited. Inside, something was changing. They had no words for alliance, no rituals for unity, but they had fear. And fear, when shared, becomes something else. It becomes purpose. Darrow was the first to move. He stood slowly, his joints aching from years of survival. He picked up a charred branch and began to draw in the dust. Circles, lines, arrows. The others watched, not understanding the symbols, but feeling the intent. He was planning, not escape, resistance. Nari stepped forward. She added marks of her own, 3 dots, a jagged line, a spiral. She had seen the eagle serpent in her dreams. She had felt it scream in her bones. She knew it would return, and she knew they had to be ready. The youngest man, Koro, brought stones, not for weapons, for sound. He struck them together, testing pitch, rhythm, echo. He was building a signal, a warning system, primitive but powerful. The others followed. They gathered wood, bone, sinew. They carved spears, shaped torches, built traps. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Every movement was a sentence, every glance, a paragraph. The fire translated their silence into action. By dusk, the cave had become a fortress. Outside, the hybrids circled. The tiger serpent moved low through the grass, its tail twitching with hunger. The eagle serpent hovered above, wings casting long shadows. A third creature joined them, part boar, part crocodile, with tusks like daggers and eyes like molten stone. It snorted, sniffed, and growled. It was searching. Inside, the humans waited. They had chosen their positions carefully. Darrow by the entrance, spear in hand. Nari on the ledge, torch ready. Koro near the traps, stones in place. The others hidden, watching, breathing in sync. The fire burned high. Not for warmth, for war. The first attack came at midnight. The boar croc lunged, tusks first, aiming for the cave mouth. Darrow didn't flinch. He stepped forward, planted his feet, and drove his spear into the creature's shoulder. It screamed, a sound like cracking stone, and thrashed, but it didn't retreat. Nari dropped her torch. The flames caught the creature's back, igniting its fur. It roared, twisted, and fled into the dark. The humans didn't cheer. They knew it wasn't over. The eagle serpent descended next. It didn't land. It hovered, eyes glowing, wings beating slow and heavy. It opened its mouth, not to bite, but to scream. The scream was memory. It made them remember the drought, the hunger, the children lost. The elders buried. It made them feel small. It made them feel broken. But the fire answered. Koro struck his stones. The rhythm echoed through the cave, bouncing off walls, cutting through the scream. The others joined in, clapping, stomping, chanting. Not words, sounds. Primal, raw, defiant. The eagle serpent hesitated. It blinked. It rose. It vanished. The humans didn't rest. They knew the tiger serpent was still out there. It came at dawn, silent, swift, deadly. It didn't roar. It didn't growl. It simply appeared, eyes glowing, tail coiled, teeth bared. It lunged, but the trap was ready. Koro's stones triggered the mechanism. A net of bone and sinew snapped upward, wrapping around the creature's torso. It thrashed, roared, bit. But it was caught. Darrow stepped forward. He didn't kill it. He looked into its eyes, and he saw something. Not rage, not hunger, confusion. This creature didn't belong. It wasn't born. It was made. By something older, something deeper. He stepped back. Let it go. The others didn't question him. They understood. This wasn't the final battle. This was the beginning. That night, they painted the walls, not with fear, with fire. They drew the hybrids, tiger serpent, eagle serpent, boar croc. They marked their weaknesses, their patterns, their sounds. They drew themselves, 6 figures, united by flame, surrounded by symbols of strength. They didn't name themselves, but they had become something new. Not prey, not tribe, not clan, fireborn. The fire had gathered them. The fire had changed them. And the fire would lead them into the night. They didn't fight for territory. They fought for memory. The moon rose blood red, swollen and silent. It hung low over the valley like an omen, casting long shadows across the cracked earth. The fireborn stood at the cave mouth, 6 figures carved by survival. 3 men, 3 women, each holding a weapon shaped by fear and hope. Behind them, the fire burned steady. Before them, the night waited. They had prepared for this. Every scar, every scream, every sleepless night had led to this moment. The hybrids were coming, not to hunt, to erase, to silence the memory of resistance. The first sound was wind, but not natural. It moved against the trees, bending them backward, whispering in a language older than speech. Then came the growl, low, layered, familiar. The tiger serpent emerged from the grass, eyes glowing, tail coiled. But it wasn't alone. The eagle serpent descended from the sky, wings wide, mouth open. Its scream tore through the valley, shaking the stones, rattling the bones of the dead. And behind them, the boar croc charged, tusks gleaming, breath steaming. The fireborn didn't flinch. Darrow stepped forward, spear in hand. His eyes were calm, his stance firm. He had buried too many friends to run now. Nari lit her torch, the flame catching the wind, casting golden light across her face. She had lost a sister to the eagle serpent. Tonight, she would speak through fire. Koro struck his stones, the rhythm echoing through the cave, bouncing off walls, sinking their hearts. The hybrids paused. They had expected prey. They found purpose. The tiger serpent lunged first, fast and low. Darrow met it mid-charge, sidestepping, driving his spear into its flank. The creature roared, twisted, bit, but Darrow held firm. Behind him, Nari swung her torch, the flames licking the creature's tail, forcing it back. The eagle serpent screamed again, diving toward the cave. Koro triggered the trap. A wall of sharpened bone rose from the ground, catching the creature's wing. It shrieked, flailed, rose again, but it was bleeding. The boar croc charged next, tusks aimed at the fire. The youngest woman, Sira, leapt forward, her spear tipped with obsidian. She drove it into the creature's eye. It roared, thrashed, collapsed. But the hybrids didn't retreat. They circled. They adapted. The tiger serpent began to coil, wrapping around the cave mouth, squeezing. The eagle serpent rose higher, preparing another scream. The boar croc, half-blind, began to dig, trying to collapse the cave from below. The fireborn moved as one. Darrow called out, not with words, but with sound. A guttural cry echoed by the others. They charged, Nari leapt onto the tiger serpent's back, driving her torch into its spine. It roared, bucked, twisted, but she held on, burning, screaming, surviving. Koro climbed the rocks, reaching the eagle serpent's height. He threw his stones one by one, each striking with precision. The creature faltered, its scream broken, its wings trembling. Sierra and the others dug trenches, redirecting the boar-croc's path, trapping it in a pit of fire and bone. The battle lasted hours. Not because the hybrids were strong, because the fireborn refused to die. By dawn, the valley was silent. The tiger serpent lay still, its eyes dim. The eagle serpent had vanished into the clouds, wounded, afraid. The boar-croc burned slowly, its tusks cracked, its breath gone. The fireborn stood among the ruins, not victorious, transformed. They didn't cheer, they didn't cry, they simply breathed. Together, they gathered the bones, not to celebrate, to remember. They painted the cave walls again, this time with blood and ash. They marked the fallen, the wounds, the screams. They carved symbols of unity, of fire, of survival. They didn't name the night, but they knew what it was. The night they became legend. The night they chose memory over fear. The night they proved that even without words, even without gods, even without tools, humans could rise, together. They didn't leave behind words. They left behind fire. The valley was quiet now. The wind moved gently through the grass, no longer whispering warnings. The cave, once a shelter, now glowed with stories. The fireborn sat in silence, 6 survivors of a night that changed everything. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their bodies bore the language of survival, burns, bruises, blood. Their eyes held the weight of what they had seen. The hybrids were gone, not defeated, dispersed, wounded, watching. But the fireborn remained. Darrow stood first. His spear was broken, his arm wrapped in bark and sinew. He walked to the cave wall and placed his hand beside the others. A print, a mark, a memory. Nari followed. She carried the torch that had saved them, now burned down to its final ember. She pressed it against the stone, leaving a black smear, a trail, a story. Koro brought the stones. He placed them in a circle, each one marked with a symbol: fire, claw, wing, tusk, unity. He didn't strike them, he let them rest. The rhythm had ended, the echo would remain. The others joined in. They painted the hybrids, not as monsters, but as trials, as tests, as chapters in a story too old for words. They drew themselves, not as heroes, but as witnesses, as keepers of flame. They didn't know what would come next, but they knew what had come before. The fire had gathered them, the fire had changed them, and the fire would outlive them. They began to build, not weapons, symbols, stone circles, bone towers, fire pits shaped like spirals. They carved the earth, marked the trees, shaped the land, not for defense, for memory. They taught the children, not with words, but with gestures, with flame, with rhythm. They showed them how to listen to the wind, how to read the stars, how to feel the ground. They passed down the scream of the eagle serpent, the roar of the tiger serpent, the charge of the boar croc. Not to fear, to remember. They didn't name themselves, but the children did. Fireborn, the ones who survived the night, the ones who lit the first legacy. The cave became sacred, not because of gods, because of memory. Travelers came, wanderers, lost souls. They saw the paintings, felt the warmth, heard the rhythm. They stayed, they learned, they added their own marks. The fire grew, not in size, in meaning. It became a symbol of unity, of resistance, of story. The hybrids never returned in full, but their shadows lingered, in dreams, in myths, in warnings, and the fireborn watched. They didn't chase, they didn't hunt, they remembered. Because survival is not just living, it's passing on the flame. One night, Darrow sat alone by the fire. His hair was white now, his hands slow. He looked at the cave wall, at the marks, at the prints, at the stories. He smiled. Not because he was proud, because he was certain. They had become more than survivors. They had become memory. He placed one final mark, a spiral. Inside it, a flame, and beside it, 6 dots. Then he closed his eyes. The fire flickered, the wind shifted, the valley breathed, and the story continued.